see,
Yeah.
and see whether our code has anything to do with that or not.
It would have to be in the WAC or not, though, because if it's not, we cannot, through our codes, we cannot force the judge to have no latitude. The state can, but I don't believe the municipality can. But we'll find that out for you,
Yeah.
quick, though.
Take a look. Thanks.
Okay, PSA with Wallace?
Yes, general engineering services. So annually, we look at updating our engineering needs. And just to clarify, this is standalone from, I believe, Community Development 26 Council last week, for that's development review. This is for public works needs, specifically for the utilities as well as streets. I met with our city engineer, which is Dan Schaefer with Wallace, and stepped through multiple projects that we anticipate either designing and or going to construction on under our general services, which is in 1.2. We're working with Pendleton on some wastewater analysis, some discharge systems there from Wallace, wastewater collection system, cured in place pipe, which is fancy for not using excavation for repairing mainline sewer. Did a few of those late last year as well. Water system GIS mapping, really far behind on that, trying to catch up on that. Of course, DOT and the SR 14 utility improvements coordination once they go to construction. SR 14 2nd Street, South Water improvements. So we've got multiple projects that we anticipate needing help on over the next year. In working with David since he came on board in May, as well as Assistant Director Jim Dunn, we have been working on some additional analysis in regards to feasibility on city engineer full-time, FTE city engineer. If David wanted to speak about that just real briefly.
Just the same comment that I made when Joanne presented her similar professional services agreement, that issue will be before you in the near future. And if you decide to move toward adding an FTE, we would be backing out some of these already approved professional service dollars. We're not committed to spend the amount. We can spend the amount. We move money from professional services, not all of it, but enough of it over into salaries and benefits to pay for the FTE that would come in. The idea would be to be budget neutral, maintain some ability to get the expertise we need when we need it, because you can't find one individual to be your expert for all of these areas. And then we would be spending less under these agreements, but we would still have the agreement so that what we did need, we could still get done. So that's still an option, and any action you take on these agreements doesn't foreclose us from doing a city engineer.
Questions from council? Okay, lease agreement with Children's Home Society.
Yes, updated lease agreement with Park County Children's Home Society. $1 a year in the lease rate for the entire year. If you recall, we brought this back to you in spring of 2010. We had not had an updated lease agreement. It had expired. So we did walk through that process with Children's Home Society staff, Park County staff, I believe Bridget. And this reflects the current budget, the budget that was just adopted by council. 1-year lease update.
Questions? What's the value of the lease with all the utilities and everything that we're providing?
I've got numbers. We've got a agreement on the elevator maintenance, specific maintenance for elevator maintenance and repair. We've got janitorial services, the utilities, water and sewer, as well as Clark PUD. It's close to in between $8,000 to $10,000 per year.
Thank you.
Depending on how much staff time / labor we would have on the exterior of the building and landscape.
other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Trevor, does that include janitorial services also, the 8,000 you were talking about?
Yes. That's just a portion of janitorial's service that they provide. for
Because
all
they
city
provide
buildings.
janitorial for all the different city buildings,
Yes.
SNS or something.
Yeah, and that's the next agenda, Bill, updating the contract with SNS.
Nice segue in. Item number 4.
Yes, so last year, this also lagged in regards to updating the contract with SNS. We went out to formal advertisement, formal bid, and received 2 bids, SNS as well as one other janitorial service provider. In my conversations with the city attorney, it is appropriate to move forward with updating the contract with SNS based on their craft of work. Currently, it's $29.20 per month. It does spell out specific facilities and when they'll be cleaned and what needs to be cleaned. So this is a fairly straightforward contract update with SNS Janitorial. And very competitive based on our last RFP for services. At one point, we had gone back and forth with some changes in code, not code enforcement, but animal control and utilizing FTEs to try to cover our janitorial needs citywide.
So I've got a question for you. Who takes care of William Clark Park?
William Clark Park. That's a shared responsibility. The parking lot itself on the north side of the dike, we sweep that with our street sweeper. And then the bathrooms on the north side, we also have janitorial on that. The bathrooms on the south side, on the river side, are Park County, or Parks and Rec.
Okay, but it's not listed here that I see.
It's a seasonal, so it comes on later, it would be a supplemental.
Okay.
I know there was some conversation or emails recently about closure on that, the conversation we'd had last year on what the intent was. Yeah, so there's also some other satellite sites that aren't in this base contract, but we only have service for 60 to 90 days depending on
A coworker of mine
usage.
gave me an earful about there being no toilet paper in the bathrooms there. He goes out running on the dike.
Oh.
Yeah, and
Run faster?
I'm gonna have to remember, I'm gonna have to ask him to clarify whether it was the north side bathrooms or whether it was actually in the park, but
Yeah.
at least I've got another answer to give him.
So, Trev, no change in contract amount from 2010 to 11?
No, we had community development, building official and building inspectors in the rental house to the west for the same price. They're now, when I say they, the janitorial service provider, cleaning the downstairs where they relocated their offices to. Talked to David a little bit about the rental house and where we land on that as far as leasing. We can adjust that contract in the future, supplemental for your consideration. So right now, janitorial does not cover that rental property to the west, other side of Fort Vancouver Regional Library there.